The living organisms, characteristics and habitats. Organisms and the surroundings, where they live. The deserts had camels, the mountains had goats and yak, while the beach had other creatures like crabs and different fish varieties. The kinds of plants found in each of these regions were so different from the plants of the other regions. Let us try to find about the surroundings in these different regions. Habitat and adaptation. In the sea, plants and animals are surrounded by saline or salty water. Most of them use the air dissolved in water. There is very little water available in the desert. It is very hot in the daytime and very cold at night in the desert. The animals and plants of the desert live on the desert soil and breathe air from the surroundings. The presence of specific features or certain habits which enable a plant or an animal to live in its surroundings is called adaptation. The surroundings where organisms live is called a habitat. The organisms depend for their food, water, air, shelter, and other needs on their habitat. Habitat means a dwelling place, a home. Several kinds of plants and animals may share the same habitat. Types of habitats. The plants and animals that live on land are said to live in terrestrial habitats. Some examples of terrestrial habitats are forests, grasslands, deserts, coastal and mountain regions. On the other hand, the habitats of plants and animals that live in water are called aquatic habitats. Ponds, swamps, lakes, rivers, and oceans are some examples of aquatic habitats. Xeric or desert habitat. Characteristics which enable camel to live in the desert are: camels have long legs which help to keep their bodies away from the heat of the sand. They excrete small amounts of urine. They do not sweat. They can close their nostrils and they have long eyelashes so that they can easily escape from desert storms. Aquatic habitat. Characteristics which enable fish to survive easily in water, aquatic habitat are: they have the streamlined shape which helps them move easily in water. They have slippery scales which do not only help in protection but also in easier movement through water. They have flat fins and tails that help them to change directions and keep their body balance in water. They contain gills which help them to use oxygen dissolved in water. Components of habitat. The living things such as plants and animals in a habitat are its biotic components. Various non-living things such as rocks, soil, air, and water in the habitat constitute its abiotic components. Acclimatization. If we live in the plains and suddenly go to high mountain regions, we may experience difficulty in breathing and doing physical exercise for some days. We need to breathe faster when we are on high mountains. After some days, our body adjusts to the changed conditions on the high mountains. Such small changes that take place in the body of a single organism over short periods to overcome small problems due to the change in surroundings are called acclimatization. These are those useful modifications which occur due to particular condition of the habitat and disappear with the removal of those conditions. A journey through different habitats. A. Some terrestrial habitats. Deserts. Desert occurs in the region of low rainfall. The plants grow in hot and dry places are called xerophytes, whereas the desert animals are known as xerocoles. The kind of habitat which is characterized by a hot and dry place with scarcity of water is called xeric habitat. Desert animals like rats and snakes do not have the long legs that the camels have. To stay away from the intense heat during the day, they stay in burrows deep in the sand. These animals come out only during the night when it is cool. Xeric adaptations in plants. The plants which are adapted to live in deserts are agave, opuntia, acacia, cactus, etc. Desert plants lose very little water through transpiration. The leaves in desert plants are either absent, very small, or they are present in the shape of spines. This helps in reducing loss of water from the leaves through transpiration. The leaf-like structure you see in a cactus is, in fact, its stem. Photosynthesis in these plants is usually carried out by the stems. The stem is also covered with a thick, waxy layer which helps to retain water. Most desert plants have roots that go very deep into the soil for absorbing water. Mountain regions. Mountain is a very special type of terrestrial habitat where temperature is very low with dry, chilly winds. In some areas, snowfall may take place in winters. Plants of the mountains. The plants such as mosses, some types of shrubs, and wild flowers grow on low mountains. They grow in low clumps and therefore get protected from the wind and cold. The trees which grow on high mountains include alpine firs, pines, and junipers. These trees are normally cone-shaped and have sloping branches. The leaves of some of these trees are needle-like. This helps the rainwater and snow to slide off easily. Animals of the mountains. Animals such as Himalayan ibex, snow leopard, snow bear, etc. live in the bitter cold of snow-covered mountain peaks, whereas goats, sheep, musk deer, wolf, fox, water wolf, and yaks live in the grass-covered plateaus and slopes of forested valleys of low mountains. Animals living in the mountain regions are also adapted to the conditions there in the following ways. They have thick skin or fur to protect them from cold. For example, yaks have long hair to keep them warm. Snow leopard has thick fur on its body, including feet and toes. This protects its feet from the cold when it walks on the snow. Grasslands. The habitat mainly includes big forest area. A lion lives in a forest or a grassland and is a strong animal that can hunt and kill animals like deer. It is light brown in color. Lions have long claws in their front legs that can be withdrawn inside the toes. Do the features of a lion help it in any way to survive? Yes, it has light brown color which helps it to hide in the dry grasslands during hunting. The eyes in front of the face allow it to have a correct idea about the location of its prey, animals to eat. Deer also lives in forest and grasslands. A deer needs to know about the presence of predators, animals like lions that make it their prey. in order to run away from them and not become their prey. It has long ears to hear movements of predators. The eyes on the side of its head allow it to look in all directions for danger. The speed of the deer helps them to run away from the predators. Some aquatic habitats. Oceans. Fish are adapted to live in the sea, and for this they have streamlined body. They stay deeper in the ocean, near the seabed, and catch any prey that moves towards them. However, when they move in water, they make their body shapes streamlined. These animals have gills to help them use oxygen dissolved in water. There are some sea animals like dolphins and whales that do not have gills. They breathe in air through nostrils or blowholes that are located on the upper parts of their heads. This allows them to breathe in air when they swim near the surface of water. They can stay inside the water for a long time without breathing. They come out to the surface from time to time to breathe in air. Ponds and lakes. Have you seen plants growing in ponds, lakes, rivers, or some drains? Have you ever noticed their leaves, stems, and roots of these plants? Some of these plants have their roots fixed in the soil below the water. In terrestrial plants, roots normally play a very important role in the absorption of nutrients and water from the soil. However, in aquatic plants, roots are much reduced in size and their main function is to hold the plant in place. The stems of these plants are long, hollow, and light. The stems grow up to the surface of water while the leaves and flowers float on the surface. Some aquatic plants are totally submerged in water. All parts of such plants grow underwater, example, Vallisneria. Some of these plants have narrow and thin ribbon-like leaves. These can bend in the flowing water. In some submerged plants, leaves are often highly divided, through which the water can easily flow without damaging them. Example, Hydrilla. These plants may be partially submerged, as in the case of water lily and lotus, or they may be free-floating, as in the case of Pistia. All of these plants mentioned above are called hydrophytes. These plants have certain characteristics which enable them to live successfully in water. These characteristics are 1. They have air storage parts in the stem for floating. They have floating leaves which have waxy coating on their upper surface. They have long, slender, spongy and flexible stems to resist strong water currents. The submerged parts of these plants are covered with mucilage or mucus, which protects the plants from the rotting effect of water. Frogs usually have ponds as their habitat. Frogs can stay both inside the pond water as well as move on land. They have strong back legs that help them in leaping and catching their prey. They have webbed feet which help them swim in water. We have discussed only a few common animals and plants compared to the wide variety that live in different habitats. You may have also noticed the very wide variety in plants around you when you prepared a herbarium. Imagine the kind of variety that you could see in a herbarium of leaves of plants from all regions of the earth. Let us now try to find out the various types of living things around us. Living things around us. We have many living things around us, such as animals, birds, snakes, insects, rocks, air, water, soil, chairs, tables, etc. Think over many such things and group them into living and non-living. We have read that plants are living things, but they do not appear to move like a cat or a pigeon. At the same time, a car or a bus can move, but we consider them as non-living. Now, we can say that plants and animals appear to grow in size with time. We can make such distinction because our everyday experiences show us that living things have certain characteristics which can easily be observed and defined. Living things may differ from each other from their external appearance. However, all of them are made of similar kinds of chemicals and carry out similar kinds of chemical reactions. Due to this reason, they share certain basic characteristics. Let us try to see some of these characteristics. Do all living things need food? All living things need food. Plants make their own food and animals depend on plants for their food. This food gives organisms the energy needed for them to grow. Do all living things show growth? Growth in living things means the addition of new body substances to the existing one. Thus, a baby grows into a child and a child into an adult. A chicken hatched from an egg grows into a hen or a cock. All living things grow from a single cell. The growth in living things is from within the organism by division of cells. The growth in plants continues throughout life, whereas in animals it occurs only up to a certain age. Do all living things respire? We cannot live without breathing. When we inhale, the air moves from outside to the inside of the body. When we breathe out, the air moves from inside our body to outside. Breathing is a part of a process called respiration. In respiration, some of the oxygen of the air we breathe in is used by the living body. We breathe out the carbon dioxide produced in this process. Some animals may have different mechanisms for the exchange of gases, which is a part of the respiration process. For example, earthworms breathe air through skin. Fish have gills for using oxygen dissolved in water. The gills absorb oxygen from the air dissolved in water. Non-living things do not show respiration. However, they require oxygen for the process of combustion or burning. Do all living things do excretion? All of us take food for our living. But not all of this food is utilized by our body. It means that the food which is not utilized has to be removed from the body as wastes. The process of getting rid of these wastes by the living organisms is known as excretion. Do plants also excrete? Yes, they do. However, the mechanisms in plants are a little different. Some harmful or poisonous materials do get produced in plants as wastes. Some plants remove waste products as secretions. Do all living things reproduce their own kind? Animals reproduce their own kind. The mode of reproduction may be different in different animals. Some animals produce their young ones through eggs. Some animals give birth to the young ones. You might have seen birds laying eggs in their nests. When these eggs hatch, young birds come out of these. Plants also reproduce. Like animals, plants also differ in their mode of reproduction. Many plants reproduce through seeds. Plants produce seeds, which can germinate and grow into new plants. Plants also reproduce through cutting.